We're going to take a look at the pricing strategies of two different events because events are still products. The first one we're going to look at is an academic conference, and the second is more of a professional learning and development conference, but in a industry where there's a lot more choice. So with the academic conference, they're very niche, they're very specialized, and it's very like, if you want to go to this specific topic, this is kind of your only choice. So you're held almost hostage to their prices. Conferences are generally quite expensive, but usually they do a lot more sales to try and convince you to go. So let's have a look at this one. This is HERDSA. It is an academic conference that's being held in Singapore. So if you want to go to this, you are quite likely also doing international travel, which means flights, accommodations, fees for food, per diems, if your company is paying for you or if your university is paying for you. I heard about this conference through a friend who works in academia, and they actually told me that their university is not paying for their flights, accommodation, food, or anything like that. And they are actually speaking at this conference. So that tells you kind of how much this industry is, if you want it, you've got to pay it. Let's take a look at the landing page of the event and the tickets. It is really quite what you see is what you get. So we have here the ticket costs, which, the average is really like, we're talking about $1,000 a ticket. They have different ticket types for different people. So if you're a full-time staff, if you're retired, if you are unemployed, if you're a student, they have different categories of tickets, but they're all generally like quite expensive. When we get to the description of what a ticket includes, it really just says attendance at all sessions. You also get the virtual access if you buy a full ticket or even just a virtual ticket. So that's not really an upsell. They do offer group discounts if you're buying several tickets together. Maybe your whole faculty is going, but it's only a 5% discount and it requires 20 or more tickets in one sale, which is quite large. As we can see at the top of the page, they do have pages for the program and things like that. But in terms of the ticket being presented on a pricing page, it's very bare bones. It's not particularly compelling. It's actually quite expensive and doesn't include things like your flights and accommodation. For a product like this, where the supply and demand is very restricted and very niche, they really can just charge whatever they want. If you want to go, you pay the price. Let's compare this to a different type of event, which is in a more competitive industry. What I mean by that is each year there are many conferences in the marketing industry, and that's what we're going to look at. So this is Generate Summit. I actually help co-organize this. We have done a lot of work to make this as compelling as possible because there is almost one conference a month. Some months have multiple conferences in them where marketers can pick and choose which event they go to. And so you really have to explain and sell why your conference is better than all the other conferences on the market. So if we have a look at the Generate website, there's a lot going on. First, we have social proof. We have why attend, what you can expect. We have the different session types. We have a recap video of the previous year's event so you can get a sense of the vibe. Obviously, marketers love brand and they love vibe. So putting that on show is actually quite compelling in this market. We have a list of all the speakers. Look, there's me. And then we have the full agenda with the description, who's speaking, what it's about, when are there breaks. There's also activities. We have an FAQ, which breaks down who's it for, when and where, agenda, I don't fit the criteria, can I still come? We have more social proof with testimonials. This event is sponsored, so we have our sponsors on there. And actually what is new this year is our ticketing price strategy. So for events, it's very common to have early bird pricing, even early bird. And the closer you get to the event, the more expensive it gets. The reason for this is that from the organizer's side, the earlier you sell out, just the less stressful organizing an event is. You're not chasing tickets right up until the day. You have all your costs covered. You potentially are going into profit. you can start booking in the next year's events because everything requires deposits and you have the cash on hand. So really you want to incentivize buying tickets as early as possible by making them cheaper. Last year, what we did is that we increased the price every 50 tickets sold. So if you were in the first 50, you got the cheapest price. If you were the 51st ticket, you would have a higher price. What was good about that was we were able to use that to drive urgency in terms of, 49 tickets have been sold. If you know that you're coming, make sure you get the next one because you'll get the better price. But it doesn't help in terms of consistency or being able to really time the volume of sales over, the duration of the lead up to the event. What we're testing this year is increasing the price based on the date. So if you were at the event last year, you got given a special price of $250 plus tax. And then if you bought before December 19, it would go up to $300 plus tax. 30th of January was $350. So it's going up $50 for each increase, but the duration between the price increases is not just like every month or every 3 months. It's actually strategically aligned to the business calendar. So we have the end of the year before you go on break for Christmas. We have in January, in Australia at least, we have Australia Day. And it's generally, after Australia Day is when work really picks up. So if you want to get this done and out of the way from your admin list before you go on that holiday, then buy your ticket. We also have the end of financial year, the end of quarter. So all of our price timings are aligned to specific events in the calendar that we can use to drive urgency, using urgency that's already there. If I zoom out, you can see how much more information is on the Generate Summit website versus the HERDSA website, which is, admittedly, it's got more pages. So the information will be broken up between those pages. But for pricing, you really want to make sure that your pricing page still has your value propositions, because let's say I was the first person on the website. I went through it. I'm really convinced. I'm really compelled. I send it to my boss and I say, hey, can you please approve this budget for me to go to this international conference? And all I send them is the pricing page. That is all they have to evaluate and make their decision. They are unlikely to do the same amount of research that I did in coming to the conclusion that I wanted to go to this event. And so if you are the organizer of an event and you have a separated pricing page, you really should consider reiterating your value propositions, the highlights of the event, why it's worth attending, to make sure that it's passing budget approvals. The last thing I'll say, just shortly on our pricing experiment, moving from the per 50 tickets to the timed tickets, we are finding it better, not necessarily for any reason other than the stress of selling tickets. So because we have a lot more control over the urgency and the volume of the tickets, we're better able to align it to our capacity to promote the event and sell the tickets. Whereas before it was very reliant on people just doing it. The other last thing I'll say is, in comparison to last year, we have sold more tickets earlier to the event happening, but this is not all because of the pricing change. It's also because of the compound effects of brand. So this is the third year that we're running the conference. It means that we have 2 years worth of attendees who are now doing word of mouth and referrals. It means that we have a lot of marketing materials from previous events to show the quality of the event, the quality of the venues, the quality of the catering, the quality of the sessions. We have a reputation for what to expect on the day. And so that is driving, yes, this is less of a risk for me to buy. I'm very happy to buy, and I'm very happy to buy early to get that earlier price. If you are running an event, my top tips for your pricing is to consider your promotional schedule and align that to your pricing strategy. We're finding the time-based ticketing very good for that. Also, reiterating your value propositions, using things like social proof, using things like photos and videos from the year before if you've done it. That all goes a really long way to building trust that this is an event worth buying a quite expensive ticket for, especially if there is going to be travel. Not even international, but interstate is enough really to convince people that they're going to have to buy not just the ticket price, but also everything around it.